What spell school is Cure Wounds? It was a different school in D&D Next. Can you guess what it was?
Necromancy?
Yes. Necromancy.
It should be necromancy.
No, I disagree so much.
No, absolutely should be.
I just did a video on this, and I really dislike the idea of necromancy.
Go back to the old school YouTube days, make a YouTube reply, response, whatever they were called. Benjamin seems to believe that in order for necromancy to retain an air of awesome, dreadful power in your tabletop RPG campaign, that it has to remain the dominion of bad guys. I'd like him to say that to a simple desert handyman I know, named Jesus. Hello viewers, my name is Dael Kingsmill. Today we're doing a vibe check on necromancy. Is it evil? If we let it do nice things, does that make it less cool? Well, let's talk about some of the real-world cultural consciousnesses surrounding the concept of necromancy and how we can apply that thinking to our games. Let's keep it evocative. Let's embrace the vague, because Lord knows it's gonna be vague. Many cultures across the world have this recurring concept of a god who conquers death. Greek, Norse, Egyptian, Arthurian, Christian all have divine figures who must die before returning, having achieved their final form. I recorded a video lecture on that once, actually, so would you all be interested in that? Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in that, because I have it. I never got paid, so it'd be nice to show someone. The point is that to defy death is over and over again across cultures deemed holy. And yet, Ben Burns says necromancy is evil, and Ben Burn is an honorable man.
But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man.
The cultural ties between holiness and resurrection aren't limited to the deities themselves returning from the dead either. It's not only the gods who get to do that. It's Lazarus come back from the dead. It's Semele rescued from the underworld. What's even more interesting to me, for the purposes of our discussion here, is that it isn't even only the gods who are capable of doing it. These two examples were resurrections performed by god or godlike figures, Jesus and Dionysus respectively, but Peter, Paul, Elijah all return the dead to life in different biblical stories. And if an apostle ain't a cleric, then I don't know who is. Asclepius from Greek myth is an interesting case study. If you're unfamiliar with the story, Sparks notes, Apollo fathers a son with a mortal woman, the relationship ends very poorly, and then he leaves Chiron, the centaur, to raise and teach that son. The boy is named Asclepius, and from Chiron he learns the art of, amongst other things, medicine as he grows up. He gets so good at healing people that eventually he can even cure death. Now, Asclepius was honored both as a god and a hero in cult, likely originally as a hero, with a decent piece of evidence being that at the end of his story, Hades complains that Asclepius is stealing all the dead people, so Zeus kills him, thunderbolts him. Heal that, loser! Ha! But he can't! So, it's disputed whether this figure associated with healing and with resurrection is actually divine in nature. Note that Jesus' divinity is disputed in different cultural and religious variations on that story. Note that Dionysus was a demigod as well, that he performs the resurrection of his mother before actually ascending to Olympus, before achieving godhood. I would suggest that the important through line with these holy, death-defying healers across cultures is not about being divine so much as it's about their connection with the divine. So gods conquer death, and their followers are able to do the same because it's emblematic of their faith and their dedication. But Ben Burn says that necromancy defies the gods, and Ben Burn is an honorable man.
Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man.
Okay, all right, but all of this so far has been focused around actual resurrection, and I feel like it's probably not the hugest leap in the world to say that full-on resurrection isn't necessarily evil. So let's get some meddling with spirits into the mix. There's a thing in Greek mythological texts called nekia, otherwise known as a necromancy. It's a common trope in which the hero of the story must commune with the dead in order to progress in their journey. It's a little different in different stories, but the way that I like to explain it is that the shades of the dead in Hades have to drink from the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. So to bring back their full memories and identities, the dead have to drink from an offering of living blood. Odysseus does this in Homer. He has to question the famous seer Tiresias, like so many heroes have done before him, but by this point, Tiresias is dead. So Circe, my personal ideal for what a warlock should be like, teaches Odysseus the sorcerous rite that he'll need to perform in order to speak to the dead. I'm going to actually read a bit of it to you now because it's badass. If I can find where I put the book down. There it is. All right. I dug a pit of about a cubit in each direction and poured it full of drink offerings for all the dead. First honey mixed with milk, and then the second pouring was sweet wine, and third, water, and over it all I sprinkled white barley. Now, when with sacrifices and prayers I had so entreated the hordes of the dead, I took the sheep and cut their throats over the pit, and dark clouding blood ran in, and the souls of the perished dead gathered to the place, up out of Erebus, brides and young unmarried men, and long-suffering elders, virgins tender and with the sorrows of young hearts upon them, and many fighting men killed in battle, stabbed with brazen spears, still carrying their bloody armor upon them. These came swarming around my pit from every direction, with inhuman clamor, and green fear took hold of me. I, drawing from beside my thigh my sharp sword, crouched there, and would not let the strengthless heads of the perished dead draw nearer to the blood until I had questioned Tiresias. I could do that better. I dug a pit of about a cubit in each direction and poured it full of drink offerings for all the dead. First honey mixed with wood. You know what? The first one was better. Just use the first one. But that's spooky, right? When Odysseus performs the ritual, all the spirits of the dead clamor to be the one to drink the blood. They all want that life essence. But Odysseus has to hold them off, including, like, his friend and his mum, to make sure that Tiresias is the one who receives the offering, so that Tiresias is the one who gets back his memories and his personality. Imagine if you had to go through that every time you cast Speak with Dead. I would love that. That would be so cool. Note that, contrary to how Benjamin paints necromancy as an intrusive manipulation of the souls of the dead, a nekia is depicted as almost a gift, something the dead all want so badly that they'll all come a-calling. What I love about this as well is that it's the hero of the story doing it, and it's for heroic reasons, but it's still scary. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm sorry. Odysseus is frightened. I'm frightened. It's a potent example of how something that isn't evil can still feel powerful and still fill you with dread. Here's another example. This one's from the Bible, Ezekiel 37. The Lord set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many on the floor of the valley, bones that were bleached and dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? Prophesy to these bones and tell them, bleached bones, the sovereign Lord says, I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I was prophesying, there was a noise, a rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them. The Lord said, Prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, Son of man, and say to it, The Lord commands, Come, breath, from the four winds, and breathe into these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath entered them. They came to life and stood up on their feet. A vast army. Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say our bones are dried up, and our hope is gone. We are cut off. Prophesy to them. Say to them, the sovereign Lord is going to open your graves and bring you up from them. He will put his spirit in you, and you will live, and he will bring you back to the land of Israel. This is an example explicitly associated with the blessing of a god. Again, fearsome, awe-inspiring imagery, and the raising of bones and corpses here again being depicted as a gift for the dead, something that they want or that they need. And yet, Ben Burns says necromancy acts against the will of the dead, and sure, Ben Burn is an honorable man.
Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honorable man.
To the question that started it all, should healing spells fall under the school of necromancy? Remember that guy I talked about earlier, Asclepius? You want to take a guess about what this legit Greek myth necromancer is known as? The god of healing. Yeah, the man's staff is still the symbol of doctors today. The story of Asclepius draws a direct correlation between the act of healing and the concept of resurrection. If you treat bringing people back from the dead as necromantic in nature, then you'd be wild to not treat healing as the same. But how do you keep that sense of awe and even fright if every cure wounds and healing word that's thrown out in under 6 seconds is meant to be an act of necromancy? First of all, I'd focus my description on the recipient of the healing, not on the character actually healing them. Describe the searing, white, hot sting of their lacerations stitching themselves back together, skin fusing itself into place. Maybe you could take inspiration from those freaky-deaky faith healing revivals where, like, the spirit of God moves through you and the character's body convulses, seizes up like they're being possessed, and then suddenly they can breathe again, move freely again, they're cured. Describe bones popping and snapping back into place, the sensation of blood running in the wrong direction as bruises undo themselves. Lean into the finer details of sensation. It's basically like describing a werewolf transformation in reverse. You'll be fine. I do think it's funny that in Ben's video, he predominantly discussed evil necromancy via arcane magic with a little section on divine necromancy towards the end, and now I'm doing the opposite of that. I've used divine necromancy to make my argument for good guy necromancy throughout the video. It's funny, not least of all because, as I'm sure a lot of you watching have been thinking, why should an association between necromancy and divinity automatically equate to necromancy being associated with goodness? The answer is, of course, that it shouldn't, and neither should arcane necromancy necessarily be classified as evil or even as unholy. The idea that wanting to not just preserve life, but extend it must stem from villainous ambition, it baffles me a little. Lives have been extended by penicillin, C-sections, blood transfusions, vitamins. In these, was human ambition villainous? And yet, Ben Burns says that the intent to extend life is rooted in egotism. And Ben Burn is an honorable man. Such a stupid joke, but I love it. All right, look, despite the title, I'm not actually here to make the argument that necromancy is good. Just that the concept of necromancy isn't inherently evil. That's the benefit of taking the negative in a debate. The point of all this, and actually of Ben's video too, is that it's worth sitting down and thinking about the cultural context of necromancy in your setting. What does it look like? How do people react to it? How do they think about it? Is it holy, or is it scary, or is it both of those things? It's all up to you. It's got really floppy towards the end there. Ben's video is great, by the way, and I actually agree with a lot of what he says. I just thought it would be more fun to present my thoughts as if I am disagreeing with him, because it's always a good idea to pick fights on the internet, right? Right? That's what they say about the internet. Anyway, now that we've gotten through all of that, tell me something about what necromancy is like in your game setting. Leave a comment for me down below. While you're there, consider liking. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. All those little bits of engagement add up and really, really help out your favorite YouTubers. So don't just do it on my videos, do it on all the videos you like. Again, my name is Dael Kingsmill. You can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram. We have a Discord, a Patreon, a merch store, all those things. Have I done it? Have I done my duty as a YouTuber? I didn't write this part down. So apart from that, I do believe that's it. I'm done. Email this to your grandma, and I'll see you some other time. Nailed it. I did that whole video in one take. If Jack says otherwise, don't believe him. He's a liar.